Hi, Paul Hefty here with 493, the coaching course, talking about Crisis Management 101. We're going to get into some real-life workshop talking about the Penn State University scandal, why that's important, what we can learn from it, and then start to develop your own ethics and leadership examples, looking at the leadership role, being proactive, some models for ethical decisions, starting to design your crisis management plan, and then real coaches, real life. First off, crisis prep, I want you to do this. Think of 3 points to ponder to learn from the Penn State scandal. What impact does Penn State's 2011 athletics program scandal have on your definition of ethics? Number 2, what impact does it have on your leadership philosophy now? And what can we learn from that? So please pause the video here real quick, answer these. Don't think about it long, which just comes into your head, okay? All right then, starting back up, just to make sure we review the Penn State Sandusky Scandal. Early November 2011 was when the scandal broke out. Sandusky was indicted on 52 counts of child molestation. Fall of 2011 then, the Board of Trustees fired all 4 leaders, Graham Spanner, he was the president, Tim Curley, the athletic director, Gary Schultz, VP, and then also Joe Paterno as the head football coach. June 22nd, 2012, Sandusky was convicted of 45 counts of sex abuse. At that time then, Graham Spanner, Tim Curley, Gary Schultz were all charged with perjury, obstruction of justice, failure to report to suspected child abuse, and related charges. Paterno wasn't charged, but was found responsible by the board. Obviously was fired, but then the free report, which came out, found him responsible for this as well. The NCAA then came in 2012 of July, imposed the $60 million fine, 4-year postseason ban, scholarship reductions, and vacated all victories from '98 to 2011. In 2014, then the NCAA, for the first time ever, reversed course and rescinded the postseason ban, restored scholarships, and recredited Penn State and Paterno with those victories from '98 to 2011. Then in 2017, March 25th, Spanier, the former president, was found guilty of 1 count in child endangerment by a jury. Tim Curley and Gary Schultz, they went ahead and pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of child endangerment. Joe Paterno had passed away in the spring 2012 and therefore was not charged. Verdict and statements here, just some things from that. Joe Paterno, before passing, along with Tim Curley and Gary Schultz during their testimony, all stated, quote, "We should have done more." FBI Director Louis Freeh, after a verdict in 2017 came out, quote, "Spanier, Schultz, Curley were the most powerful men who ran the Penn State University. Today they are convicted criminals, and Joe Paterno's once iconic legacy is forever marred by his own decision to do nothing when he had the chance to make a real difference." Penn State statement after the convictions announced, quote, "The verdict, their words and pleas indicate a profound failure of leadership, and we cannot undo the past, but we have rededicated ourselves and our university to act always with the highest integrity and affirming the shared values of our community." From that, I'd like you to do a personal statement workshop. I want you to come up with, what is your statement? What's your position? Your position as a PSU grad, you're speaking for the university as a future leader. So what's your position on the scandal, on the 3 past leaders' guilty verdicts, on Joe Paterno's leadership and your verdict, and on the university? So go ahead and pause it here, write this down, and we can hopefully add some of these, and I'll show you how to do this to the portfolio. All right, so the biggest question I get with this, because it's not an issue that a lot of us want to deal with, but why should we? Well, these are examples, and I'm going to give you, and I'm not preaching here, but these are real stories. And what the scandal, again, here is particular in Penn State, and these life can be used for, is these are life experiences that we can learn from so we can make better decisions as leaders. A good example, September 11th, I was a coach, a small college in Chicago, and we were one of the few programs that decided not to play a game that Saturday. At the time, not very popular, but looking back now, Jim Scott, who was the head coach there, obviously a very wise decision. What was going on in our country more important than a football game, in my personal opinion. Head coach resigns, and I become the interim head coach, and then later on, I'm not hired for that. Again, I could take those experiences as a negative, but that was something now I learned a ton from when I did become a head coach. Then as a head coach, I was asked to fire some staff. It makes you be a test of where you stand and who you stand for. Is it a people first, or is it the position in place? At that time, I choose not to fire them because they were the same people that helped us turn the program around. And the athletic director let me continue to do that, and we had a great turnaround. Again, but that's a test. Crisis stories, again, there's a ton of those. I've had student athletes that have committed suicide and had to deal with parents and family with that. A plane crash where we were actually in a preseason meeting on a Sunday afternoon, and parents and a girlfriend are flying back after being down for the scrimmage back home. Plane crashes, and I have to help this young man deal with the death of all these individuals. Cancer of both your athletes, your staff, but also from a personal level. Young player, parent, teammate dead with a heart attack. Well, how do you help them get through that and manage that? So again, remember, the main thing here is you're going to be judged on how you lead in these crises. And what we want to try to do is prepare for the crazy, anything and everything, by learning from these past experiences, whether they're our own, but more importantly, if we haven't had a lot of these experiences, to study them, research them, like the scandal, and what can we learn from that, and then be proactive in our own crisis management if something similar comes about. So it's real research is what we're talking about. So what can we learn? Number one, how do you define ethics? It is important. Keep it sound, and that's at the first part of your whole project. Go look at that one more time. How you define leadership and how you lead, make sure you keep it simple and consistent so that it can fit all these unique scenarios that come up as you are a leader. And then plan for how to apply your role from more of a management standpoint, preparing for the two extremes, the best scenario to the worst scenario, and everything in between. And then contingency plans, like I said, plan for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here's a look at ethics, some class definitions from the past. There's some interesting ones there. Zero tolerance, no nonsense, hide nothing. Obviously the one at the bottom, character over reputation by John Wooden. But these are ones you can refer back to in the PowerPoint. Some good ideas to build up your ethics definition yourself. Here's some also then from leadership. Always love the quote from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. But again, never assume others will do the right thing, as the last one talks. But again, these are some great ideas for you to look at. So the leader's role, what I'm trying to get across here with crisis managers is to be proactive. You want to be resolving the conflict. What is your role? Study others, prepare for the worst. Coach yourself up. That's getting those contingency plans. Are you going to be a police person or an educator in how you deal with the discipline and crisis, or are you going to be a combination of both? Use and study other scandals as research. We've got the Penn State one, but there's numerous ones out there. Ohio State football tattoo scandal, the SMU death penalty back years ago. Baylor basketball, where a player murdered another player, and the coach actually covered that up. There's just on and on. Establishing expectations and standards. Go back to your awards and discipline. That's what sets up what is acceptable, what isn't, and how you're going to keep people accountable then for the process of conflict. Again, not looking at laws, but format a process, a system, and then document it. Model for some ethical decisions. First question to ask is, what is the ideal ending? What objectives do you want to achieve? Then go list some of your options. Consider the ethical guidelines under which you're operating. What is the code of ethics? What can you do? What can't you do? Look at different principles. There's different theories out there that can help you with the research of how you want to create validity in the philosophy in your decision making. and then make the objective ethical decisions. Understand that you have biases. It gives you a better chance to eliminate the emotion from those. So here's some steps real quick that I got from Outdoor Leadership of Martin when I was doing outdoor education, and I still use to the day. Again, step 1, identify the ideal end objective, list the options. 2, 3, ethical guidelines. 4, use actually concrete principles versus just winging it. And then 5, identify your own bias and how it can affect the decision. New crisis process here in this day and age, I would argue, is that we need full disclosure. There are no secrets. And if there's anything we learned from the Sandusky scandal, it's just a matter of time. Remember, safety first, legal second, and then your own personal philosophy. So again, go back to what you came up with as your statement of the scandal. And the reason I encourage you to come up with this is you leave Penn State. People are going to constantly connect you with that brand, which is awesome, which is powerful, but it also has this very publicized crisis, and that you can have a very strong statement on what you learned from the experience and how we would move forward when people ask you and you're prepared. Again, if you've got time, go to the PowerPoint and you'll see these top 10 meltdowns. It's really kind of funny and sad at the same time, but again, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Good luck.